I found it in his suitcase while looking for his passport, a receipt from Tiffany's for a diamond pendant necklace I'd never seen. The paper trembled between my fingers as I stared at the date. 2 weeks ago. Our 5th anniversary wasn't for months. The autumn morning light streamed through our bedroom windows, casting shadows across the cream carpet where Matthew's half-packed suitcase lay open. He was rushing to catch his flight to Chicago, shouting about missing documents from the bathroom where the shower still ran. "Meredith, did you find it?" His voice echoed off tile. I slipped the receipt into my pocket, my heart hammering against my ribs. "Still looking." The lie tasted bitter on my tongue. The necklace cost more than our monthly mortgage payment. In 5 years together, Matthew had never spent that kind of money on jewelry, not even for my engagement ring, which he'd proudly called sensibly elegant when he proposed. I mechanically continued rifling through his belongings, finding the passport tucked beneath a folded dress shirt. The familiar scent of his cologne clung to the fabric, usually comforting, but now somehow cloying. "Got it!" I called out, forcing brightness into my voice. My fingers felt numb. Matthew emerged in a cloud of steam, towel around his waist, water beating on his shoulders. He smiled, that same warm smile that had made me fall for him at that charity auction years ago. "You're a lifesaver, babe." He kissed my cheek, and I fought the urge to flinch. I watched him dress with methodical efficiency. Charcoal suit, pale blue shirt, the silver tie clip I'd given him last Christmas. Each familiar gesture felt like a stranger's movements now. "The Anderson meeting shouldn't run late," he said, checking his phone. "Want to do dinner when I'm back? That new Italian place you mentioned?" "Sure," I said, my voice steady despite the acid churning in my stomach. "Text me when you land?" He was already heading for the door, rolling his suitcase. "Always do. Love you." The front door clicked shut. I waited until his car engine faded before pulling out the receipt, studying it like it might reveal new secrets. The price, the date, the item description that revealed nothing about its intended recipient. My phone buzzed. A text from Noelle. "Coffee? Need your marketing genius for this pitch." I stared at the message, my thumb hovering over the keyboard. Noelle had been my closest friend since college. She knew Matthew almost as well as I did, or thought she did. "Can't today. Deadline." Another lie, easier than the first. I called the office instead, my voice remarkably composed as I told them I was taking a sick day. Then I opened my laptop and pulled up our joint credit card statement. 3 hours later, my eyes were burning from staring at the screen. I'd found more: dinner charges at restaurants we'd never visited together, a hotel booking downtown on a night he'd claimed to be working late, small purchases at shops I didn't recognize. Each discovery was a fresh crack in the foundation of everything I'd believed about us. My phone lit up with a text from Matthew. "Landed safe. Missing you already." I set the phone face down without responding. The diamond pendant was out there somewhere, probably nestled against someone else's collarbone. Someone who had dinner with my husband at candlelit restaurants while I worked late, believing his excuses about client meetings. The receipt felt heavy in my pocket, a paper weapon that had shattered 5 years of trust in an instant. I thought about confronting him immediately, demanding answers, but something deeper, colder, was taking root beneath the hurt. I opened a new browser tab and typed Tiffany's into the search bar. The pendant would have a serial number, the store would have records, and next week was the annual industry gala, the perfect opportunity to see who might be wearing a brand new diamond necklace. My hands had stopped shaking. The initial shock was crystallizing into something else, a clarity I'd never felt before. Matthew thought he was so careful, so clever with his secrets. He had no idea who he was dealing with. I picked up my phone and opened my calendar, scrolling to next Friday's gala. Time to start planning my outfit. After all, if I was going to watch my marriage implode in public, I wanted to look absolutely devastating doing it. The cursor blinked on the calendar entry as I added a note. Wear red. Red for rage. Red for revenge. Red for the blood he'd never see coming. The gala invitation mocked me from my desk. Thick cream cardstock with gold lettering, promising an evening of celebration and connection. I'd spent the past week methodically preparing, letting the anger simmer beneath a carefully maintained facade of normalcy. Matthew noticed nothing different when he returned from Chicago. He brought me a box of artisanal chocolates, kissed me like always, and slipped seamlessly back into our routine. Each gesture felt like sandpaper against my skin. "You're sure you want to go tonight?" he asked, adjusting his bow tie in our bedroom mirror. "You've seemed tired lately." I smoothed my red dress, a weapon disguised as silk. "Wouldn't miss it. Besides, the Morrison account team will all be there." I watched his reflection carefully, including Gianna. His hands paused fractionally on the tie. Right, good networking opportunity. I'd spent hours choosing this dress, knowing exactly how it would hit every curve. The neckline dipped just low enough to make the absence of any necklace conspicuous. Let him notice. Let him wonder. The ballroom at the Riverside Hotel dripped with crystal and pretense. I recognized faces from a dozen different firms, all playing the same game of corporate musical chairs. Matthew's hand rested at the small of my back as we worked the room, but I felt each time his eyes drifted away, scanning the crowd. "Meredith!" Gianna's voice cut through the chamber music. She air-kissed my cheek, champagne glass dangling from manicured fingers. "That dress is absolutely killer." I hugged her closer than necessary, noting how she stiffened slightly. "Thanks. Love your necklace. Is it new?" Her hand flew to her throat, to the simple pearl pendant that definitely wasn't from Tiffany's. "Oh, this old thing. Had it forever." Matthew had drifted away, deep in conversation with Patrick near the bar. I kept Gianna close, letting the champagne loosen her tongue. "How's the Morrison project going? Must be intense all those late nights." "What late nights?" She frowned. "We wrapped that weeks ago. Matthew's been focused on the new healthcare client." Ice spread through my chest. He'd used the Morrison project as an excuse for 3 dinner meetings last month. "Of course," I said smoothly. "I must be mixing up projects. Speaking of Matthew, have you met Susan from his team? I've been dying to connect with her about their marketing strategy." Gianna's glass froze halfway to her lips. "Susan? I don't... Oh." Her eyes widened with sudden recognition. "You mean Susan from the Chicago office?" The room tilted slightly. "Yes," I lied. "Exactly. I just met her last week when she was in town. Gorgeous woman, has this stunning diamond pendant she was showing off. Said it was a gift from..." Gianna's voice trailed off as she finally registered my expression. Horror crept across her face. "Oh God, oh God, Meredith, I didn't..." "Excuse me," I managed, turning away. The crowd seemed to pulse around me, faces blurring. I needed air. I pushed through the French doors onto the terrace, gripping the stone balustrade. The night air was sharp with approaching winter. Behind me, the party continued its glittering charade, while my world splintered into before and after. "Meredith?" Patrick's voice. I hadn't heard him follow me out. "You okay?" I turned, ready to brush him off, but stopped at his expression. He knew. Of course he knew. He and Matthew had weekly squash games, drinks after work. How many others knew? How long had I been the only one not seeing it? How long? My voice was barely a whisper. Patrick shifted uncomfortably. "I shouldn't..." "How long?" He wouldn't meet my eyes. "Since the Chicago merger. About 8 months. 8 months, While I'd been planning weekend trips and talking about starting a family, Matthew had been building a whole separate life. Every kiss, every I love you, every shared moment had been a lie. I'm so sorry, Patrick started, but I cut him off with a laugh that sounded nothing like me. Don't be. I needed to know. I straightened my spine, letting the fury crystallize into purpose. And now I do. I walked back into the ballroom, my heels clicking against marble. Matthew was by the bar, checking his phone, probably texting her, Susan with her diamond pendant and her 8 months of secret dinners. He looked up as I approached, smile faltering at whatever he saw in my face. Everything all right? I took his champagne glass, draining it in one smooth motion. Perfect, I said, setting it down with a decisive click. Everything is absolutely perfect. And it was, in a way, because now I knew exactly what I had to do. I waited 3 days after the gala before calling Noelle, long enough to ensure my voice wouldn't shake. She answered on the first ring. Finally, I was starting to think you'd fallen into a marketing black hole. Can you meet? I kept my tone casual. That new coffee place on Maple? There was a pause. Noelle had known me long enough to hear what I wasn't saying. Give me 20 minutes. The cafe was quiet for a Sunday morning. Noelle took one look at my face and ordered us both double espressos. We claimed a corner table, and I pulled out the Tiffany's receipt, now worn from constant handling. Her eyes widened as she read it. Oh, honey, that's not all. The words spilled out. The gala, Gianna's accidental revelation, Patrick's confirmation. Noelle listened without interrupting, her fingers white-knuckled around her cup. 8 months, she finally said. That absolute bastard. I need your help. I leaned forward. You handle background checks for your firm. I need to know everything about Susan from the Chicago office. Noelle set her cup down carefully. Are you sure that's the right move? Right? I laughed, the sound brittle. Nothing about this is right, but I need to know what I'm dealing with. No, you need to confront Matthew, or talk to a lawyer, or I need to understand exactly what he's built behind my back before I tear it down. The intensity in my voice made a nearby customer glance over. Noelle studied me for a long moment. This isn't you, Mare. The plotting, the revenge. You're better than this. Maybe I'm tired of being better. I pulled out my phone, showing her the hotel charges I'd found. While I was better, he was building a life with someone else. Being better just made me easier to fool. Okay, she held up her hands. But promise me you'll be careful. Whatever you're planning, just be careful. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. Because the truth was, I didn't feel careful. I felt like a bomb with a lit fuse, counting down to detonation. Back home, I started my own investigation. LinkedIn revealed a Susan matching Gianna's description, recently promoted to regional director. Her profile showed she'd been in town the same weeks as Matthew's late meetings. Each confirmation was another twist of the knife. I was so focused on my screen that I almost missed the sound of keys in the door. Matthew was home early. Hey, beautiful. He dropped a kiss on my head. Working on a Sunday? I closed the laptop, forcing a smile. Just getting ahead on some things. My heart was racing, but not from fear, from anticipation. How was squash with Patrick? Good match. He's getting better. Matthew headed for the kitchen, but I caught the slight hesitation in his step. Really? Because I ran into him at the grocery store an hour ago. He seemed surprised you hadn't called to reschedule. The silence stretched for 3 heartbeats. Right, sorry. It was tennis with Mark today. I'm getting my days mixed up. I watched him pull out ingredients for dinner, his movements deliberately casual. Every lie now stood out like neon signs. How had I ever missed them? My phone buzzed. A text from Noelle. Found something. Call me ASAP. I need to take this. I told Matthew, heading for our bedroom. Work thing. I closed the door before calling Noelle. What did you find? It's not what I found. It's what I didn't find. Her voice was tense. There is no Susan in the Chicago office. Not now, not in the past year. But Gianna met someone who called herself Susan. But whoever she is, she doesn't work for the company. The implications hit me like a physical blow. The lies went deeper than I'd imagined. Who was this woman? What else didn't I know? Mur, you still there? Yeah. I sank onto the bed, staring at my reflection in the dresser mirror. A stranger stared back, someone harder, colder. I need one more favor. Can you get me the security footage from the Riverside Hotel, the night of the gala? What are you thinking? Gianna said she met Susan last week. If she was at the gala, my voice hardened. I want to see her face. In the kitchen, I could hear Matthew humming as he cooked, playing his role of devoted husband. Let him pretend. Let him think he still held all the cards. Because now I knew this wasn't just about an affair. This was about a carefully constructed fiction, and I was going to dismantle it piece by piece until nothing remained but the truth. The security footage from the gala filled my laptop screen, ghostly figures in evening wear drifting through the frame. I'd been watching for hours, scrutinizing every woman who approached Matthew. Noelle had pulled strings to get the files, but the image quality was frustratingly grainy. A knock at my office door made me jump. Come in! Olive from accounting stepped in, clutching a stack of papers. Sorry to interrupt, but I need your signature on these expense reports. She paused, frowning at my screen. Is that the gala? I started to minimize the window, then stopped. Olive had been there that night. Actually, did you happen to notice a woman talking to Matthew? Tall, dark hair, probably wearing something expensive. Something flickered across her face. You mean Susan? My heart stopped. You know her? Olive shifted uncomfortably. I've seen her around. She comes to the office sometimes, usually late afternoons. Always goes straight to Patrick's office. Patrick. Of course. He wasn't just covering for Matthew. He was actively helping him. The betrayal burned fresh. When was the last time? Tuesday? Olive set down the expense reports. Listen, Meredith, I should have said something sooner. It felt wrong watching them all pretend. Them all? The words came out sharp. She sank into the chair across from my desk. There's a whole group that knows. Patrick, Gianna, some others. They do happy hours at Maxwell's downtown. I got invited once, but it felt, I don't know, like being part of something dirty. My hands were trembling. I'd imagined Matthew's betrayal as something contained, just him and this mystery woman. But this was a conspiracy of silence, a web of complicity that included people I saw every day. Show me, I said, pulling up the footage again. Where is she in this? Olive leaned forward, scanning the screen. There, by the bar in the blue dress, that's her. I froze the frame. The woman was facing away, but something about her posture seemed familiar. She was talking to Patrick, one hand resting possessively on his arm. Wait. I rewound further, watching her movements through the crowd. She never fully faced the camera, but her gestures, the way she carried herself. I know her. What? I've met her before, at the Christmas party last year. Patrick introduced her as his sister. Olive's eyes widened. That's impossible. Patrick's sister lives in Australia. He talks about her all the time. The pieces clicked together with sickening clarity. Patrick hadn't just been covering for Matthew. He'd been actively creating her cover story, lending legitimacy to her presence. How many other lies had they constructed? My phone buzzed. A text from Matthew. Working late tonight, don't wait up. I showed it to Olive. Maxwell's? She nodded slowly. Probably. I need a favor. I met her eyes. A big one. 20 minutes later, I watched through Maxwell's front window as Matthew arrived. He headed straight for a corner booth where Patrick was already waiting. No sign of Susan yet. "Are you sure about this?" Olive whispered beside me. I touched the phone in my pocket, recording everything. Completely. We went inside, choosing a table with a clear view. Matthew's back was to us, but I could see Patrick's face as he looked up and saw us. The color drained from his cheeks. "Showtime," I murmured. I stood, walking deliberately toward their table. Matthew was mid-sentence when he sensed my presence. He turned, surprise flickering across his face before he controlled it. "Myrrh, what are you doing here?" "Funny," I said, my voice carrying. "I was about to ask you the same thing. Thought you were working late." "I am. Just a quick drink with Patrick to discuss the Henderson proposal." "Really?" I turned to Patrick. "Or are we waiting for your sister, the one from Australia?" Patrick's glass slipped, spilling whiskey across the table. Matthew went very still. "Meredith," he started, but I cut him off. "Don't. Just don't." I placed my phone on the table, the recording still running. "I want to meet her, the real her, or the next conversation we have will be with HR." The threat hung in the air. Patrick looked between us, panic rising in his eyes. But Matthew's expression had changed to something calculating. "Okay," he said quietly. "You want the truth? Come back tomorrow night, same time." "Why not now?" His smile was cold. "Because, darling, there are some things you're not ready to hear." I matched his stare. "Tomorrow, then." Walking away, I could feel their eyes on my back. Olive waited by the door, concern etched on her face. But beneath the fear and anger, something else was growing. A fierce satisfaction. Because tomorrow, finally, the masks would come off, and I was ready to face whatever truth lay beneath. I spent the day watching the clock, every minute crawling by like honey. Noelle called twice, but I let it go to voicemail. I couldn't handle her concern, her warnings about being careful. Careful was for people who still had something to lose. At 6, I left the office without saying goodbye to anyone. The autumn air had turned bitter, matching my mood. Maxwell's neon sign buzzed in the growing darkness, a red glow that seemed to pulse with my heartbeat. They were already there, Matthew, Patrick, and a woman with dark hair sitting between them. My hands clenched involuntarily as I recognized her profile from the security footage. She looked up as I approached, and the world tilted sideways. "Hello, Meredith," said Susan Roberts, my mother-in-law, the woman who had died in a car accident 12 years ago. I gripped the back of a chair to steady myself. "This is impossible." "Sit down," Matthew said quietly. "Please." I sank into the chair, staring at the ghost across from me. She looked different from the photos Matthew kept. Older, harder somehow, but unmistakably the same woman. "You're dead," I managed. "He told me you were dead?" "He told everyone that." Susan's voice was exactly as I'd imagined it from Matthew's stories. It was easier than explaining the truth. "Which is?" Matthew reached for my hand. I yanked it away. "Don't." "I had to protect her," he said. "After what happened with Dad's company, the investigations, she would have lost everything. The embezzlement scandal." The pieces started clicking together. "But that was a cover story," Susan finished. "Robert wasn't embezzling. He was gathering evidence against the board. They were laundering money for some very dangerous people." She smiled without humor. "Then he had his accident, and I knew I was next." My head was spinning. "So you faked your death?" "Matthew helped me disappear. New identity, new life. It was supposed to be temporary, just until we could prove what really happened. But the deeper we dug..." She shook her head. "Patrick's been helping," Matthew added. His security clearance gives us access to records we need. We're close to having enough evidence to go public. Close? My laugh sounded hysterical even to me. You've been close for 8 months while lying to my face every day? I couldn't tell you, he pleaded. It wasn't safe. If they knew you knew. Shut up. I turned to Susan. The necklace, was that some kind of signal? She touched her throat where the diamond pendant hung. A dead drop. The USB drive is inside. Next week's board meeting is our chance to finally expose everything. How convenient. I stood up, my chair scraping back. You know what I think? I think you're both lying. Again. I think this is just another story to cover up whatever's really going on. Meredith, wait. Matthew reached for me. Don't touch me. Several heads turned at my outburst. You let me believe you were having an affair. You let me think I was crazy, paranoid, imagining things. Do you have any idea what that did to me? It was better than making you an accomplice, Susan said sharply. Better than putting you in danger. Better for who? The tears I'd been holding back finally spilled over. You got to play dead mother-in-law's spy games while I planned our future, while I talked about having children with a man who couldn't even tell me the truth about his own mother. Matthew's face crumpled. I wanted to tell you so many times. But you didn't. I wiped my eyes roughly. And now you never have to, because I'm done. You can't leave, Susan said urgently. Not now. If they think you know something, then what? They'll arrange an accident for me too? I laughed bitterly. Good luck explaining that one to your next wife, Matthew. I turned to go, but Susan's next words froze me in place. They're already watching you. Have been since the gala. Your friend Olive? She doesn't work for accounting. She works for them. The room seemed to tilt again. Olive's convenient appearance, her helpful information, her eagerness to assist. You're lying. Check your phone, Patrick said quietly. The recording from last night? It's gone. She took it while you were in the bathroom. My fingers trembled as I pulled out my phone. The recording was gone. All my recent calls, texts, photos, erased. So what now? My voice sounded distant to my own ears. Now, Susan said, you sit back down, and we figure out how to keep you alive long enough to finish this. I sank back into my chair, looking at these familiar strangers around me. My husband, my dead mother-in-law, my friend the secret agent. Tell me everything, I said, and this time don't leave anything out. The safe house was a bland apartment in a forgettable building. I sat on a threadbare couch while Susan laid out files across the coffee table, bank statements, emails, surveillance photos, evidence of a conspiracy that had been growing under my feet like toxic roots. The board meeting is in 3 days, she explained. Once we present this, they'll have no choice but to. A knock at the door silenced her. 3 sharp raps, then 2 soft ones. Patrick's signal. But when the door opened, it wasn't just Patrick who entered. Noelle? My voice cracked. What are you doing here? She stepped inside, looking grimmer than I'd ever seen her. Cleaning up a mess. You should have stayed out of it, Mir. Understanding hit like a physical blow. You're one of them. Not exactly. She glanced at Susan. I'm FBI. Deep cover for the past 3 years, investigating the same people you are, until you started poking around and nearly blew everything. I looked at Matthew, who wouldn't meet my eyes. Did you know? Not until tonight, he said quietly. She contacted us after you left Maxwell's. Noelle sat across from me, her familiar face now strange with secrets. Those background checks you asked for? They set off every alarm we had. We've been building this case for years, and suddenly my best friend is digging into exactly the wrong places. Your best friend. The words tasted like ash. Was any of it real? All of it. She reached for my hand. I pulled away. That's why this is so hard. I need you to step back, Mare. Let us handle it. Step back? I gestured at the files. I'm already in it. Olive is being handled, Patrick interrupted. We've fed her false information. As far as they know, you're just a jealous wife chasing shadows. My laugh had an edge of hysteria. That's exactly what I was. Until an hour ago, I thought my husband was having an affair with his dead mother. Keep your voice down, Susan warned. Or what? More accidents? More lies? I stood up, pacing. How many more people are watching me? How much of my life is even real anymore? All of it was real, Matthew said softly. Everything between us. I just couldn't. If you say you couldn't tell me one more time, I swear to God. We need to move, Noelle cut in. They're expecting suspicious activity around the board meeting. We have to get the evidence in place tonight. No. The word surprised even me. Excuse me? I said no. Clarity was crystallizing through the chaos. You don't get to sideline me now. Not after everything. Meredith, Susan started, but I cut her off. They're watching me, right? Expecting the jealous wife act? A plan was forming. So let's give them what they expect. Understanding dawned on Noelle's face. You want to be the distraction. I want to be myself. I turned to Matthew. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to make a scene at your office. A big one. Very public, very messy. The kind of thing a woman who just discovered her husband's affair would do. While we move the evidence, Patrick nodded slowly. They'll be focused on you. It's too dangerous, Matthew protested. More dangerous than letting me stumble around in the dark? I met his eyes. You wanted to protect me by keeping me ignorant. Look how well that worked out. Silence fell as they considered. Finally, Noelle spoke. It could work, but there's no going back after this. Your life as you knew it? My life as I knew it ended the moment I found that receipt. I picked up one of the surveillance photos. At least now I get to choose how it ends. Susan was watching me with new respect. You understand what you're risking? Better than you did when you let me marry your son without knowing the truth. The words hit their mark. She flinched slightly. Tomorrow morning then, Noelle said. 9 a.m.? I nodded, already planning. I'll need my red dress. The one from the gala? Matthew asked. Seems fitting. I managed a bitter smile. I bought it to confront your mistress. Might as well wear it to confront your mother. Later, driving home through empty streets, Matthew tried to speak several times. I kept the radio on, drowning him out. Let him sit with the silence for once. My phone buzzed. A text from Olive. Drinks tomorrow? Need to talk about what happened at Maxwell's. I showed it to Matthew. He tensed. Don't respond. I know how to play my part, I said coldly. I've had plenty of practice. Tomorrow, I would become what they all expected. The hysterical, betrayed wife making a public scene. But behind the performance would be something else. Something harder. Something real. Because now I knew the truth. And the truth, it turns out, was far more dangerous than any lie. The elevator doors opened onto the 32nd floor at exactly 9:07 a.m. My red dress was a battle flag, my heels striking marble like warning shots. Conversations died as I passed. Someone whispered, "Oh shit, good, let them watch." Matthew's office door was closed. Through the glass wall, I could see him at his desk, performing his role perfectly. The unsuspecting husband about to be publicly destroyed. I didn't knock. How dare you? My voice carried across the suddenly silent floor. How dare you sit there pretending everything's normal? He looked up, practiced surprise on his face. Meredith, what are you? Don't. I slammed my hands on his desk, sending papers flying. I know about her, about all of it. Movement in my peripheral vision. Olive appearing in the doorway, phone raised. Recording just as we'd predicted. "This isn't the place," Matthew said, standing. "Let's talk about this at home." Like we talked about the necklace? I picked up his framed photos, examining them with exaggerated care. Or the late meetings, or should we talk about your mother? His flinch wasn't entirely acting. Around us, the audience grew. "You're upset," he tried. "I understand, but—" I hurled the frame. It shattered against the wall, glass tinkling like wind chimes. Someone gasped. "Upset?" I laughed, the sound raw. "I'm way past upset, Matthew. I'm at the part where I burn everything down." Right on cue, Patrick appeared. "Security's on their way. Meredith, you need to leave." Perfect timing. I rounded on him. "Tell them about the happy hours at Maxwell's. Tell them what you've been helping him hide." Patrick's face drained of color, also not entirely acting. Behind him, I caught a glimpse of Noelle slipping into the conference room where the board would meet in 20 minutes. Everything was proceeding exactly as planned, until Olive stepped forward. "I think," she said quietly, "we should all calm down and discuss this privately." Something in her tone made my skin crawl. This wasn't the script. Nothing left to discuss. I moved toward the door, but she blocked my path. "Actually," her smile was razor sharp, "I insist." The gun appeared so smoothly, it seemed to materialize in her hand. Gasps and screams erupted as people scrambled back. "Inside," she gestured to the conference room with the weapon. "All of you." My heart hammered as Matthew and Patrick flanked me, moving slowly toward the door. This wasn't part of the plan. Noelle was in there, vulnerable, with the evidence. The conference room was already occupied. 3 men in suits stood around the table. In the corner, Noelle knelt with her hands zip-tied, a bruise darkening her cheek. "Quite a performance," one of the men said, examining a USB drive, the one from Susan's necklace. "But ultimately unnecessary. We've been ahead of you the whole time." "Not quite." The voice came from behind us. Susan stood in the doorway, her own weapon trained on Olive. "Drop it." Olive's laugh was cold. "Or what? You'll shoot me in front of all these witnesses? They're still filming, you know." She nodded toward the glass walls where horrified faces pressed against the windows. "They're filming exactly what we wanted them to film," I said, understanding finally clicking. A disgruntled wife's meltdown, or a terrorist attack on a corporate office. The men in suits tensed. Outside, sirens wailed in the distance. "FBI!" The shout preceded a dozen agents flooding the floor. "Everybody down!" Chaos erupted. Olive spun toward Susan, but Matthew was faster. He tackled her as the gun went off, the bullet shattering the glass behind us. I dropped to the floor as agents swarmed in, their weapons drawn. "Clear!" someone shouted. "Suspects in custody." Hands helped me up. Noelle, now free, pulled me into a fierce hug. "You okay?" I nodded, watching as agents led away the men in suits. Olive was being cuffed, her cold mask finally cracking. "The evidence?" I asked. "Safe." Noelle smiled grimly. The real USB drive was never in the necklace. That was just to make them show their hand. Matthew approached slowly, uncertainty in his eyes. Blood trickled from a cut on his forehead where he'd hit the ground. "I'm sorry," he said softly, "for all of it." I looked at him, really looked at him, past the lies and secrets, past the pain and betrayal. He'd tried to protect me by keeping me in the dark. But when it mattered, when the choice was between his secrets and my safety, he'd chosen me. "I know," I said, "but we're not done talking about this." "No," he agreed, "we're not." Outside the shattered windows, morning sun painted the city gold. Sirens faded into distance, and in the wreckage of my carefully constructed life, I felt something unexpected taking root. Not forgiveness, Not yet, but possibility. The hotel suite felt too large, too quiet after the chaos. I stood at the window, watching police lights pulse against neighboring buildings while FBI agents processed statements 12 floors below. Tea? Susan offered from behind me. Something stronger. She poured 2 whiskeys, joining me at the window. We hadn't been alone together since the truth came out. The woman I'd imagined from Matthew's stories, soft-spoken, gentle, bore little resemblance to the sharp-eyed operative beside me. "You could have told me," I said finally. "That night at Maxwell's. You could have trusted me from the start." "Would you have believed me?" "No," I smiled slightly. "But I would have respected the truth more than another lie." She swirled her drink, ice clinking. "When Robert died, I thought I was protecting Matthew by disappearing. Instead, I forced him to carry my secrets, to become like me." She met my eyes. "I never meant for him to do the same to you." "But he did." I turned from the window. "And now what? We all pretend to be a normal family?" "Normal is overrated." Noelle entered, still in her tactical gear. "Besides, you'd be bored. You're one to talk." But there was no bite in my words. The anger that had driven me for weeks felt distant now, replaced by something more complex. "The board members are singing," Noelle continued. "Olive's handler rolled on the whole operation. It's over." "Is it?" I asked quietly. A knock interrupted whatever she might have answered. Matthew stood in the doorway, looking uncertain. "Can we talk?" Susan and Noelle exchanged glances before slipping out. The door clicked shut with finality. Matthew stayed by the door, keeping his distance. Smart man. "The papers are ready," he said. "If you want them." Divorce papers. The simple solution. Clean break, fresh start. I'd been so sure that's what I wanted. "Did you ever actually trust me?" I asked instead. "Or was I just another cover story?" "You were the only real thing in my life." His voice cracked. "Every lie I told was because I couldn't bear to lose that." "But you did lose it. The moment you chose lies over truth." "I know." He took a step forward, then stopped. "But maybe we could try truth for a change." I laughed despite myself. "Just like that?" "No." He pulled something from his pocket, the diamond pendant. "Not just like that, but maybe like this." He set it on the coffee table between us. "What's this?" "A choice." He met my eyes steadily. "Inside is everything, every secret, every operation, every lie I've ever told. Read it, destroy it, turn it over to the press. Whatever you decide, I'll accept it." I picked up the necklace, feeling its weight. "And if I choose to walk away, then I'll respect that too." His smile was sad. "But I'm hoping you'll choose to stay. Not for the man you thought I was, but for the man I want to be. The man you make me want to be." The necklace caught the light, scattering diamonds across the wall. So much pain and deception wrapped in something beautiful, like our marriage. "I can't promise forgiveness," I said slowly. "I'm not asking for it, just possibility." I thought of that first receipt, how it had shattered my world, how each revelation since had forced me to rebuild myself stronger, sharper, more true. "Okay," I slipped the necklace into my pocket. "But we do this my way." "Which is?" "First, you're moving out. I need space to process everything without you there pretending nothing's changed." He nodded, accepting this. "Second, we start therapy. Real therapy where we actually tell the truth." "Done." "And third," I stepped closer, close enough to see the hope and fear warring in his eyes. "No more lies, not even small ones, not even to protect me, because I'm not the woman you married anymore. I'm someone stronger, someone who can handle the truth. No, he agreed softly. You're someone who demands it. I reached up, touching his cheek where a bruise was forming from the fight. He stayed perfectly still, letting me choose the contact. One more thing, I said. Anything. That red dress? I'm keeping it. Sometimes a woman needs armor. His laugh was surprised, genuine. It suits you. I stepped back, maintaining the necessary distance between us. There would be more revelations, more painful truths to face. The path ahead was uncertain. But for the first time since finding that receipt, I felt truly powerful, not because of secrets uncovered or justice served, but because I finally knew who I was. A woman who could face deception and emerge stronger, who could choose truth even when lies were easier, who could wear red not for revenge, but for herself.